let's just start recording, which is what we're doing.
Alright.
It's gonna be
We can
fun.
get into
Don't
it.
worry.
Yeah. I also don't think this episode will be that long. So hopefully with time wise. But yeah, very last minute podcast streaming or recording. I frantically texted Ian yesterday because I had one of those, oh my god, we need an episode, and I gotta edit it over the next couple nights after my day job. So, and that takes a while.
Yeah.
So we're here.
We're
recording. I'd like to thank
Can
you
I tell you?
You guys want to do a new intro, or do we want to keep that one?
That was such a bummer.
Nick, you're a fountain of good ideas. Why don't you take over and start? Nick, you try.
Go for it.
Astro City is a good movie.
Good job, Nick. Really appreciate that start.
Yeah.
Oh, there's more. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Jesus Christ. Oh, there you go, Chris. Mr. Busy Man.
Don't.
Busy.
Oh. Tip, tap, tap, tap.
Was that Asteroid it? I thought you had more. Oh, no. Ian, you try. Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Ian, try. Oh, my God. Dang, Chris.
Well, we pumped the well of your good ideas, so, like...
This could be an intro.
This could be the intro. What fucking...
You know, the great thing is with the three of us, we've got 3 shots at a good one. And we just edit it down.
And the last 2 were bad, which means like
no, mine was pretty good. I like mine.
You want yours?
Yeah.
You sure?
Listeners, if you hear 3 intros, that means that they're all bad. We made you listen to all 3 of the bad.
I know it's good.
All right, Ian, go. Intro.
Hey, did you ever grow up watching The Twilight Zone on Thanksgiving marathons when you were home from school? Well, if you did, you might have a better chance of liking this movie, Asteroid City. It's a little pastiche on mid-50s science fiction, and then in the meta sense, I feel like this is the part that Chris may not like, as he indicated. There's also kind of the element that sci-fi is a genre in the 50s where you can kind of slip in the poison of, oh, I've actually got a pretty strong opinion on some social thing that I want to talk about, but sci-fi is the only safe way to kind of get that idea out. And Wes Anderson said, "Yeah, that, but for
you're just doing the podcast now. This is whatever intro that was gonna be.
I thought we're gonna transition to it.
Oh, it sounded like he was going. I was reading all the parts we got to do, and it sounded like he was finishing all.
Look, I don't know what the parts are, but I believe you.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't know there was a transition.
I want to just talk about a story that happened to me that instead.
Yeah, in this episode of the Life Podcast, we find that a movie's good, but it gets in the way, you know.
It gets in the way of the funniest thing. So when you texted me in all caps, we only have so long to do this. I was in the middle of moving furniture in an elderly person's home, and I, without context, heard from the television in the other room, Tulsa, Oklahoma, the new Sodom and Gomorrah. And I want so badly to know what the context of that was. I wish I ripped
that away from you.
You ripped it away from me, and I just had to cackle badly like a lunatic. And this poor old woman's upstairs just... What?
Just drop everything.
Oh my god.
Drop the couch.
Were you related to this old lady, or was this just like a good thing you did?
This was just a kind turn that I was actually doing, guys. I'm kind of a white knight. I'm finally gonna clean up Gotham, one old lady's house at a time. I feel like we're far from it. Okay, this is about Asteroid City. We're talking about Asteroid City.
This is all going in.
It's a good.
This is all going. This
Asteroid
is the worst
City.
intro we've ever done, and it's so funny to me. I'm gonna put it all in. It's all gonna go in.
Yeah.
I'm laughing. I think this is hilarious. I'm gonna keep this shit in.
Chris is the no man in improv group. No, there's no time.
All right.
Well,
that's right. So like, Ian, Asteroid City is
in one word, a super meta. I hyphenated that one for you. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
One word. Super. Yeah. It's a really interesting film about like the art making process, and I'm super interested in getting into more of the details on that interpretation. But what do you guys think? What did you take away when you first saw this movie?
Well, before we get into that, let's start with the first part of the podcast.
Yes.
The rising action, which is everything we knew about the piece going in. I'll go first. I'll start off. I didn't know much other than it had to do with the aliens, and I was into that idea, especially from Wes Anderson, because I feel like he doesn't do pulpy stuff, and I was right. He doesn't. As we keep up with, as we get back to this, or genre flicks.
Yeah,
I guess would be, is Life Aquatic him? Is that a genre? I haven't seen Life Aquatic.
Yeah, he's a Life Aquatic sim. Yeah.
Okay. Is that a genre movie? Like, is that sci-fi? Is that?
It's bordering on sci-fi, but it's more like a whimsical Steve Irwin movie. Yeah. I would describe it. Yeah.
Okay. And you know what? Now I'm thinking like Fantastic Mr. Fox. That's got to be fantasy. That can't be any. Americana fable.
It's a Roald Dahl short story, I think.
Yeah, that's true.
About talking animals, genre. So it's got like that folk genre quality to it.
Yeah,
definitely.
There's talking animals. That's already fantasy.
Yes.
Isle of Dogs is then. Yeah, you know what? Okay, so I guess more of, I wasn't expecting him to do an alien story. Right. And in a sense, he doesn't.
He very largely sidesteps the problem of writing quite a lot of the sci-fi story. That's true.
Yeah, it really is a background.
It is a movie that's more interested in, hey, could I just show you the good drama parts from this sci-fi movie?
Talk about acting.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So a little like, okay, so, but yeah, I heard it was an alien story beforehand. I know Ian really liked it. It was in his top 10 for things last year.
Yeah.
And go check out that episode. That was the very last episode of 2023.
Yeah.
And not much else other than, like, I've seen a bunch of Wes Anderson movies. I really like French Dispatch, with the caveat being I totally get why people don't like French Dispatch, because that is a really indulgent film.
And I feel more so about this movie than the last one.
You told me that, and I went, it can't be. And then I went, and then watching this, I'm inclined to agree with you that it's a much more indulgent film than the French Dispatch.
Yeah.
That's more or less everything I knew. My favorite, like, Wes Anderson movies are like, Fantastic Mr. Fox, Isle of Dogs.
Grand Budapest, guys?
Grand Budapest is probably, if you had to make the argument for what's, like, objectively his best movie, which I already
his magnum.
My eye is that yeah. It would probably be Grand Budapest. That's like that's probably his most, like, quote unquote perfect film.
I'm inclined to agree. I'm inclined to agree with you.
And I really like French Dispatch. We did a whole spoiler cast for that in the last Storyteller cast, but, like, the gist of it is, I love I do like stories about writing as a writer, which is one of the most boring things I think I can say about myself. And
Yeah.
two, two, I love compilation stories or short story
Okay.
where there's a film and then there's a bunch of other stuff, or like in a story you're actually reading a bunch of other stories that are part of a grander narrative.
Yeah.
Sort of like World War Z, All Quiet on the Western Front.
Mm.
And then, like, I like the humor, I like the shots, all that. I can understand the complaint of, or I always have this thing in the back of my head of like, it's also just people are reading dialogue at you, right? It
Yeah.
feels like that a lot of times, but for whatever reason, I'm not bothered by it in Wes Anderson movies as much as it bugs me in Nolan movies. And I don't know quite why. Maybe we'll explore that later in this podcast, but that was something I was thinking about.
I'd love to hit on that. I definitely have some thoughts about the difference between the flat affect in a Nolan script and the flat affect in an Anderson script. But Nick, what did you come in
Nick,
beforehand with?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think the only thing I ever saw about Asteroid City was probably the poster for it. That and like,
oh yeah, it's a cool poster.
it's a really, really nice poster. And I think it's weird because then again, going back, like talking about what they're kind of going for from the get go, visually, and like what that era is supposed to represent for the story. I think the poster actually told a lot more than those Wes Anderson posters usually do. That was really neat. But
let me pull it up right now. Keep going, Nick.
no, yeah, I would say like that in terms of knowing the film itself. That's all I knew. Just the poster.
Okay. So one more thing I've been thinking about, just that I had brought before the movie, and then we can get into the next bit of our pod. But one of the things that I had there had been conversation about, at least, was Wes Anderson was kind of developing this idea for a few years before the movie was made. I had heard about it before French Dispatch came out. It was kind of gestating.
Okay.
And he co-wrote it with the same co-writer as the French Roman Coppola on the French Dispatch. The thing that I had been thinking about and hearing in conversation was the idea that both Wes Anderson and Tarantino might be putting out a science fiction movie against each other, because
that would be insane.
Wouldn't that be wild?
That's two completely different directions. Who are interested in very different things except for movies.
They're both movie dweebs.
Yeah.
This is true. But oh my god, they are different instruments
or
entirely.
Film dweebs, I guess, but like because Tarantino talks a lot about like old Western shows too.
Yeah, and it's interesting that like Asteroid City is maybe like the closest place between the Venn diagram of those two men I can think existing, truthfully.
Yeah.
No, at that time there was a lot of kind of heat coming up with the idea that Tarantino was looking at adapting a Star Trek film script into a movie, and that like
I feel like I've heard about that.
Making the negotiations essentially with Abrams as the current kind of head of that property. But yeah, I think coming into it, I was in that headspace of, oh my god, two film dweebs are going to be making like two pulp movies, basically. Like, what is that going to be like? Yeah,
that's not what this movie is.
No, this is a very different.
This is such a different movie than what I thought it was going to be. I'll tell you
what. Well, let's get into what the movie actually is. Then a little bit.
When we dial in the climax.
There you go.
I know. I have to keep doing I have to keep doing the pauses.
To really,
can cut
really
in
keep
the
us on our
soundbite.
toes.
I love this, the equivalent of the clown doing a trick and then taking off his nose, going another one.
No. You know what it is? It's a magician doing a trick and going see and then next. Next trick.
It's
what that
the
is.
trick. It's the trick that, and this is an amazing trick. It's the trick of Dan Harmon doing a cum joke 8 times in a row in one scene.
Oh, in that one episode of
when
Community.
Pierce dies.
Yeah.
And the ability to make 8 punchlines that are the exact same.
It's the exact same
plan.
joke.
It's
Exact
the exact
same
same
punchline.
Yep. Yep. Excellently done. It takes a real gifted hand.
We're giving me way too much credit, but let's go into the climax of the podcast.
Yeah.
Where we discuss the media. Ian, I'm gonna let you take, because did you end up rewatching?
I did a jump around. I watched some of the highlight scenes of the dialogue, and I kind of watched some of the meta text scenes of the black and white stuff that's like the real world, quote unquote.
The play that's happening.
Yeah.
And what we're watching is like a film version of that play.
That was produced presumably a few years later in color.
Okay, so here's my big question, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is this a film adaptation of that play, or are we watching the play and fucking like this is the visualization, right?
Of the fantasy kind of coming alive for us.
Yeah. I'm inclined for the first just because you have Bryan Cranston doing oh my god, what's his name from Twilight Zone?
Rod Serling.
Yeah.
From Mad Max.
Yeah, because the black and white bits are... It's weird because, okay, you want to talk about meta. Cause the black and white bits are a documentary of that play being made. But then we're watching the play. So there's like multiple layers.
And we're also watching some things that are like impossible. Like we're watching Ed Norton, the script writer, have his affair and create the story for this guy.
Yeah.
Like it's all kind of in that, nested in that, like abstraction from reality. But it's I don't know about you guys. The black and white, something about it. It sounds bizarre of a Wes Anderson film. It feels much more grounded than the color parts. It feels like there's a lot of
there's an alien in the color parts.
Yeah. True.
Yes, it does. And then there's things that happen in the color bits that are like, that are part of like jokes. I'm thinking of like the car part, the engine part, like coming out and rattling crazily. The way the oil works in that, and then
the kid,
just like things happening that are inconveniences.
The children all have funny dialogue in this film.
Yeah,
I'm a vampire. I'm a mummy werewolf, and I'm a fairy princess. Or the child that won't stop betting that he can't do dumb things. Which well captured, realistic depiction of a boy that age. Absolutely,
yeah, we've all known.
Yes,
I feel like we've all known. Dude like that. Time.
Yeah,
and it usually is the reason they give in the film towards the end.
Yeah, why do it? I need to be seen to know I exist.
I need to make sure you're part of this.
Yeah,
that it's not just me doing shit.
Yes,
doing it, you know. Which is part of the meta thing. Like, okay, so let's just humor me for a second as I try to figure out the layers, right? because I want to know how much I've thought about it. Or like,
Yeah.
I want to make sure I'm not fully crazy, but I probably am. There's the layer of there's the colored film, which is the play that the writer Edward Norton writes,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The playwright. Forgive us if we mess up the names, but I swear to God, Wes Anderson makes movies so that you name the actor, not the character. In the movie.
Oh yeah,
very much
Yeah.
over. I feel like
Yeah.
it's too much that, and I would never. Whatever. Getting off track.
You would never.
One layer is the colored film, right? And
Right.
that's the play we're seeing.
Yeah.
Somehow manifested. In what way? I'll get back to that. The black and white version, which is a Rod Serling, almost Twilight Zone-esque like thing, is just a tale about this play, implying that these are all actors acting out the play, like acting out the creation of this play. Right? Because like Bryan Cranston's narrating this as a Rod Serling thing.
So I don't know. I kind of interpreted it as the Rod Serling part is like the metafiction. Like Rod Serling, when he's standing there, is implying that we can do, we're actually breaking the rules for the format of the doc, quote unquote doc. Like Rod Serling can appear in someone's living room or whatever it is, but I don't know. How did you? I don't know that I interpreted it as this is a reenactment of things. It was more like, we're getting a very stylized shot of the thing that happened in the fiction of an omniscient narrator who can just jump around in time and say, and this is what he was thinking when he was running, down the back way.
Why set up the stage at the? Sorry to cut you off, but like,
no,
why set up the stage at the beginning as Edward Norton's writing, and we zoom in on that while Bryan Cranston's still in the foreground? If you're not being taken into a recreation,
and if it is a recreation, that's true. That's true. That's true. I was kind of thinking that that staging affect is supposed to help us kind of connect it to the fantasy of all the different ways that the A plot and the B plot are reflections of each other, ostensibly. But I can see it being that, what you said. Like, I can definitely see that the interpretation that this is like Asteroid City was such a popular thing. Of course we're going to make a story explaining how this hit movie came to be. Like that feels like a realistic interpretation as well. I see that.
Yeah, meaning, okay, so we do that, right? And then and I'm gonna have like a whole thought about this and whether or not it's important. So there's that layer. So there's like technically 3, and Bryan Cranston is telling us what those layers are. And I think kind of like the smoking gun, right, for the way I'm seeing it, is Bryan Cranston being caught in camera. And he's like, am I supposed to be in this part? Meaning, I thought it was a joke on the layers that were going on, right? That's become so convoluted. But then why even have the fucking scene where he's coming out of the theater building to talk about the lines if that's not?
I want to talk about that scene because I think it's great.
Unless that's just a great bit on the documentary. like is that like a rumored thing to have happened? Right?
Yeah.
Right. So, like, what is it to the metafiction, or because like when I'm watching that scene, I'm thinking of it in terms of, well, one, it's a beautiful, it's an amazingly powerful scene between Margot Robbie and Jason Schwartzman, and like the fact that the intensely meta aspect of, oh, Margot Robbie's character was actually cut. They just didn't feel like that scene fit. And so when you get to see this like quote unquote flashback, it's a double flashback. It's a flashback for the actor and for the character. And we're seeing the quote unquote fictional flashback of, oh, what would that exchange between the quote unquote husband and wife would have been.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you get this like deep sense of the loss on two levels. And on two levels it's a flashback. So it's a very like
as well as the loss
heavy
of... go ahead.
thing.
Finish.
Layer heavy thing. Go ahead.
Yeah. And it's like, it's also showing that cutting that, even though they view it as unnecessary to the story, it is necessary because it explains why he burns his hand.
Yeah.
The one question they have in that narrative while reenacting the play.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But see, okay, so that whole sequence lends me to the other credence, like what we're watching is like what our imagination's supposed to be of the play. Rather than showing us a stage production.
Yeah.
That's where we come out and see all the players and Jeff Goldblum's the alien and like all that jazz. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna ask you guys how you feel about this.
Okay.
We keep talking about the meta aspect, the meta events in here, because I don't think that's so important to the themes I would want to talk about.
Oh, okay.
Unless it actually is. Like, and then I've just got to rewatch the movie and like get out my notebook and be like, okay, this.
It sounds...
doesn't make sense in that context type deal.
Well, it sounds like you'll probably benefit from rewatching it again. Definitely. I think that's what's real. I think that was really cool about it.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, yeah, totally. I agree. Like about like where it sort of begins and where it, like the overall layers are going. Because like Grand Budapest worked because it was just the girl on the bench reading the events that happen in the book, and it ends with writing the letter, and then so it's both the character and the meta like narrator like coming to their own conclusion. So I think what's cool like with Asteroid City is that it's the film equivalent of the moment they walk off stage, then we get like, and like you guys talked about, like realistic, like this is the actors like own struggles and the writers like whole issue, and like how that's the documentary is supposed to like focus in on like the whole writers, like the authors, like
relationship with the actors.
Relationships. Yeah, so I was thinking like relationship with the actors, and also like maybe sort of I guess just the production. But it's weird because it's about the production, but then it focuses on just the writers' relations with them.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, I guess that's where I also got a bit confused on like, is a documentary about the play itself, or is it the author? Like,
it's about the making of the play.
Making of the play.
It's the making of the play. And if I'm being like, so we mentioned how this film is very indulgent and
fucking
like I think
we haven't got to talk about the alien.
The alien is so unimportant, dude. It's crazy.
Right? Like, but it's cool. It's a cool design.
It's a very cool one. Yeah.
It's neat.
The alien's only important. Like, okay, this is such a play thing, and I think that's why this works. The alien's only important so that there's a change in the world, and all the characters can react.
A literal midpoint,
It's that thing of like something interesting happened, and now we got to deal with this shit.
Yeah, the literal like midpoint. Yeah. So what now?
A great catalyst for your in-universe fiction. Act 1. Oh no, everything's different now. What do we do? Yeah.
And I know that makes it seem like I don't like that. I actually really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was really dope.
I was surprised by how much I enjoyed that device being used.
Yeah.
Because the alien is important. In that sense, the world doesn't change. But then it's weird what you're seeing was cut. in that discussion later,
Yes.
and that you're forgetting that small character moment.
Yeah.
It's that nightmare of writing where like you cut something and you forget, and then you're like, that's unnecessary, I don't need that, and then you forget this one detail that's actually a big moment for a character. Doesn't make any fucking sense unless you included that one scene.
And even then you but you have the through line of it actually for Jason Schwartzman's character, of him examining himself and not being able to, come to terms with it. And then it's really weird because then you think of, oh, so did most people just watch this movie and just watch this play and then come out of it thinking, oh, what was that hand burning thing about?
Scene, yeah.
Because he go ahead.
Oh,
he
you go.
There you go.
He has that long dialogue with Scarlett Johansson about being a parent, where she asks him, so what's the hand burning thing about?
Yeah.
And he can't explain it. Yeah.
But he felt so passionately about doing it.
Oh yeah.
Like he was in that character so much that he actually does it.
Yeah. That's real.
He burns the shit out of his hand. Like
method acting, yeah.
And that's the thing I want to point out with one of the reasons why I like the straight dialogue so much, or why I enjoy Wes Anderson's like version of that, right? Is because scenes like that have so much impact.
Yeah.
Like in your head, it's like, not doing certain things or being caught in a rhythm for so long that when the surprise happens, it really catches you off guard and you should be paying attention to that.
Yeah.
Because you also have Scarlett Johansson. Oh my god, Scarlett Johansson. Reacting to that in a very genuine way rather than doing the direct, like almost deadpan dialogue she's been doing beforehand.
Yeah,
where she actually sounds concerned or like in surprise at the same time. Like there's emotion, I guess, is what I'm saying. They
do emote.
They emote versus not emoting. Which makes their whole discussion more interesting about what's going on in the mind of the character, because like they're not emoting, so they're telling you what's going on in their head. You just have to base off those actions, or like their words that they're saying, but that's like this weird facade too. Yeah, man. Wes Anderson has that stuff, right? Where there's most of the time they're saying something, and then there's obviously something else going on underneath. The subtext is their thoughts, right?
Yeah, like
I'm just describing writing at this point. So
it's about a writer.
Yeah. The Walt Disney character played by Tom Hanks, who's grandpa.
Yeah.
So his whole character, basically, for the duration of the film is, I hate my son-in-law, and I think it's his fault that I don't have a daughter anymore. And like they don't say that, but that's such a huge part of the dynamic. In every single scene they play against each other, even on the phone.
Yeah,
you immediately get the context of who this person is and what's going on between them.
But they are like, and then it's only like the children keeping them interacting with each other. Exactly.
And just to kind of tie back to what we had talked a little bit about, flat affect in writing and performance. I think another thing to consider is Asteroid City is very much concerned with character first.
It really is.
The movie goes out of its way to remind you, as we've said, it's not about the alien, it's not about any of the spectacle. The star of this should be, two people looking at each other in a room and talking. And that's the most kind of gripping stuff that this movie is offering you.
Yeah. Much like most of Wes Anderson's work, but yeah.
Exactly. But that is to say that the movie, because it's from that perspective, it does get those emotional beats right, and it feels genuine, it feels real. Whereas I'm going to do something terrible. I'm going to negatively compare it to a different movie.
Okay.
Interstellar,
Okay.
written by both of the Nolans. The character part feels weird. The emotional part feels like it's done by someone who has had feelings explained to them. And they thought, "Oh, that sounds messy. Okay, I'll try."
Yeah,
I
like the
think
two. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I think the daughter would be kind of like sad. I guess
Yeah,
sad.
dude.
She's like sad, I guess.
It's
Yeah.
and that is what I was gonna get into. Like the difference between Nolan doing that and Wes Anderson doing that is like there is emotion when those actors go, and that's usually left up to the actor. It feels like a lot of the times.
Mhm.
But like there doesn't feel like there's anything beneath. Like what you're getting is what you're getting.
Yeah.
And it's just gonna move the movie along so that
Yeah.
Christopher Nolan can get to his next big pretty shot.
Yeah.
Which, and listen, I'm not saying they're not pretty. They're very good shots.
They're great.
But
Yeah.
it's just hard to believe any of those are people. like, like the three highlights for that movie for me, right? Interstellar is the robot, obviously, being the only source of joy in that film.
Yep.
And, oh my god, the main character seeing the videos of his daughter after being stuck on that planet for like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Because that's actual genuine acting that he's doing, and I like that that the film doesn't cut away from his face. You're not watching the videos; you're watching him react.
Yeah,
and I enjoy that. Third is the being in between the fourth dimension thing is really cool.
Yeah,
but yeah, good God, dude, those like he just cannot. Like it feels like a lot of some of his movies feel like the people are getting in the way. Like, does that make sense? Like,
I think I know what you mean. Yeah.
Like they're just these little pieces he's moving in order to get to the next thing.
It's
I felt it the most in that. Oh my god, Dunkirk is where I felt
Dunkirk, it. Yeah.
Where I'm like, people are obviously there just so you can have a body count number.
Right.
Because I don't believe anything with the family or all of that. Other than, I guess he's going on a boat to try to go save his son. Yeah, that is crazy, isn't it? But we don't get much more than that.
Right.
It felt like how do I describe it? I think to your guys' point, like with Nolan, it seems like when he does characters like that, I guess I was never too into it because it's weird. They're like written like a cheap action film, but they're trying to be deep. Like
yeah.
And that's it's weird. Like because it's essentially like it's set piece. I want to get to this imagery any means I can.
Isn't this a cool line I came up with? Now the character's gonna say that, even though you don't have really anything to connect it with that they've done before.
Yeah, Dunkirk. I felt that like because it was obviously all supposed to set up when he gets on the plane, and you get the wide shot of him and the big Hans Zimmer slamming the organ, and then but I think with Wes Anderson, I did like. I know. I just appreciate like all the payoffs you get if you pay attention to all the smaller conflicts, kind of just bulldozing into the end.
Yeah, yeah, building up towards something. Plus, the characters feel like even though they're saying these things that obviously humans wouldn't say, like you still find them believable. Because you're finding this role believable because you're finding the other characters react that way.
Yeah.
And also talking like that. And this is just you have to assume this is just how everybody is.
It's stylistic consistency. That's what it is.
It's consistent. It really is. You can't say it ain't. Like plus the dialogue's fun and funny. He's really good. He has really good comedic timing. But anyway, let's get back. Let's focus a little bit more on Asteroid City versus. I like that discussion though between directors.
Yeah.
But I don't want to be. I don't want to keep being the guy that goes, I don't like Christopher Nolan.
Fair. There's enough.
Because I know I've said it so much.
He just sucks so hard, guys.
I enjoyed Dark Knight. That was, but I think I enjoyed Dark Knight despite him. Maybe I don't know. And then there's.
Listen. I loved when Ra's al Ghul blew up that train. It was super cool. I loved it. It was a great time.
Yes.
And I can't say that dude doesn't create some crazy ass scenes to direct, like that are really fun to watch.
Oh yeah.
That whole plane sequence is nuts. But like, okay. Anyway, we're getting off track. Asteroid City. Let's looking at the time already. So let's think about scenes we want to talk about. We already talked about the two actors at the end, the actor that was cut, and why that was so cool. Do we want to talk? Is there anything you all want to talk about? Because I got some characters that, like Steve Carell's character, I really enjoyed.
Yeah,
who's just trying to make the place livable.
Yeah,
or not even livable, a tourist destination.
Yeah,
all by himself, and is selling land that doesn't have fucking water, or like.
I tell you, but I loved how specifically American. Yeah, like
it's so American. It's crazy.
The deeds in a vending machine felt like, this. I don't know that I've seen it, but I believe it.
I'll believe
it's
you.
Immediately believable. Yeah. It for people who have ever done road trips in the Southwest, Arizona, New Mexico, it's like, I can see that.
There's it reminds me of one of my favorite things in like Las Vegas, right? Is if anyone ever goes to the Cosmopolitan, they have like cigarette machines that have been refurbished or like tinkered with so that they don't sell cigarettes, but they sell small pieces of art. And the art can be anything. It can be like jewelry. It can be like a small little painting or like a poem or a booklet. You don't quite know what you're getting most of the time. And they have those within the hotel. It's like, I think 3 or 4 of them. And they're really cool.
That's really cool. That does sound really cool.
Yeah, something you wouldn't know like about that hotel we're going in. So it kind of reminded me of that. Vending machines with cool things besides like just snacks and drinks.
Yes. Yeah. Nick, what do you any scene from this film or character? I guess we could drill in on characters if you want, or what's kind of pulling you in that stuck with you from this here film?
You know what? I want to talk about the alien. I want to talk about that whole thing with the
Let's
festival.
talk about the alien.
The science festival. It's kind of crazy.
We need to bring this podcast back on track. Let's talk about
let's talk about what makes it sci-fi and why it's labeled as.
You know what? Yeah, man, let's do that. Because like me and you have been talking a lot about genres like off camera.
Yeah,
it's fucking.
So
let's go.
Talk about.
Let's go.
So what makes it sci-fi is that it's a
fucking alien.
Alien. It's a science festival. The fictional story within the story,
right?
And it's weird because like the midpoint of the play and of the film is that you are shocked when the alien shows up because you just don't expect it. But I think it's funny because the way it's shot reminded me of like Isle of Dogs.
Yeah.
A bit. Yeah. And no, I think the whole sequence and like everything after is great, because it felt like once when the chaos was happening, after the alien left the second time, then you have the guy walk off stage, because that would be like where intermission would happen, like the second act of a play. Or final act, and then the act is about censorship. Like it's about like the government
to cover up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and it's about
Okay, good.
No, so yeah, no, it's about like the censorship of and the cover up of the government, and it is that era of because it takes place in Paris, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
So that whole area at the time of Roswell 51
Yeah.
sightings, it's ripe with that, and I just thought it was like really cool that the author trying to cover up parts of his past writes a whole third act about censorship. I thought that was pretty great.
Dude, I hadn't even put that together. Okay.
That's a great connection, actually. Yeah, I
Yeah.
like that a lot.
Yeah, I was wondering where you were going with that, but dude, that totally. Yeah, that is a weird parallel. Like, obviously not. Like, that's definitely on purpose because, like, especially if a playwright, you're gonna write what you know type deal. And to have it as this metaphor. So, like, yeah, okay. So we go into that sequence right after the alien, which is the kid who works at the school newspaper. Or is it his local news? I thought it was the school newspaper because the guy, the editor, looked like his age.
Yeah.
So I thought it was a school newspaper. So I think it's really fucking funny that a school newspaper is the one breaking the story. Like,
yeah, no, it's great.
That also.
It was dope. It was dope to see him again.
Oh yeah, I love how I liked his character because he was also one of the only few like emoting. And having the stern father behind him being like, "Yeah, come on, dude, it's government. You got it." No, I love that whole scene. All the kids were great, by the way.
Oh yeah, the whole group was really cool.
All the little science inventions are really fun. Yeah, but that's interesting about the censorship cover-up thing.
That's so okay. I like that as a through line, and I want to.
What's missing from the play?
Yeah, because I think I watched like 2 interviews with Wes Anderson where he said Asteroid City. He said that he feels like it's his most personal work, and I guess I was trying to figure out like what he means by that. Because
go ahead.
Go ahead. I was gonna say like I'm thinking about like because that sort of thing is kind of like writer being censored by government or or like journalism like being suppressed or being over. I mean, it's kind of there in the French Dispatch. It's kind of there with
things edited down.
Yeah, Budapest, where like he's kind of like telling you the events of what he thinks happened. We're like, oh,
yeah, you could argue this play was edited down too because it is. You have the missing. You have the missing scene that would have explained why he burns his hand, and everyone's wondering why that is, and like, it's almost I don't know if this would be utilitarian or it would be the exact opposite of viewing writing, which is everything's important. That you put in, everything's connected in some way when you write your story out because you've made this world, and if you're really good at you're staying within this world, then yeah, everything affects everything, much like life. If you're doing it right, but like, yeah, damn, dude, you threw like a whole wrench in there. That I'm like, I wish I had thought about that beforehand because now I fear dead air on the podcast, which is just me thinking.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying like that's what I think makes it sci-fi is like that is
you're right.
That is yeah.
No, you're keep going. I think
I'm saying that's definitely a common trope in those back then. We had the Day the Earth Stood Still, where it's about like a commentary on Cold War and information suppression, and they're trying as quickly as possible to talk to the alien and figure out what the fuck you want, like.
Talking to this whole another culture or thing that like you don't understand, or do they mean harm or not? Because everything looks scary.
Yeah,
when you're looking at it.
And then the alien just sums up the film by going, "Oh, okay, where's all your leaders? We can all hang out in a room and you can tell me what's going on." Like, the war of the pigs. But but it's just like with this film, it's like the alien just came for the rock. Like that's it. Like he wasn't.
Yeah,
He
he
came
even leaves the
for.
cage.
Yeah, he came. Yeah, he leaves the cage. He came for what everyone already decided is theirs. Like,
Mhm.
and it's just like after that, yeah, it's like it's a story. It's a story about that. But then then you take the layer of the documentary because it's still about the author
Yeah.
hiding stuff and like what was like and yeah, I guess I was just trying to find like what all these layers are supposed to be at the end. Like like you, like I was like, okay, but then is it about the author? Is it about sci? Like, but I don't know. Cause I think after watching the interview with Wes Anderson, him saying it's his most personal work, I guess I was just trying to find like something that kind of connect that because I don't know. I guess after watching French Dispatch, I was also like, yeah. At some point, there's always the guy who writes and is trying to hide something,
Yes.
Or something's
you know,
not being told.
is not being told, or yeah, or the Budapest thing of, and then 50 guys with guns showed up.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
swore it happened.
I
Yeah.
swear,
It was 50 dudes.
it's that thing. And then I swear to fucking God, 50 dudes with rifles showed up.
George Clooney for 2 seconds was on screen.
I've always wanted to write that line into a story.
What's that?
Which is I swear to, and then I swear to fucking God, and then something happens.
Yeah.
Because it's a reference to fucking Sonic High School, because that happens all the time, and it's a troll story, so it's supposed to just be bad.
Mm-hmm.
But two, I think if I can figure out a legit good use for that,
To really
it would
deploy.
be hilarious. Like,
Yeah.
so it's in my pocket, like I'm trying to find just the right moment to use that, because I think it could be the funniest fucking thing in the world if I can nail the scene, right?
Yeah.
It would be a triumph. Truly.
It sounds like a lot of fun. Yeah. Sounds really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
So,
But go ahead, Ian. I have some thoughts.
do you want to tie him to what Nick had said?
Yeah, going to the because we were gonna go. Well, this isn't really sci-fi, right? But that is you're absolutely right, Nick. That is a very sci-fi thing where it's like you give this critique on like bigger powers through your work. That happens all the time, as you pointed out with the Day the Earth Stood Still, right? As well as like corporate cyberpunk is just when it started out, not the game, the genre.
Yeah.
It's a scathing, like almost nihilistic take on what end game capitalism would be.
Yeah.
On our society.
Yeah.
As well as like fascist states being arising in the modern age.
Yeah.
With the cheapening of life, everything's a payment, everything's a transaction. You don't own anything. You're owned by something. Type deal.
Yeah.
So now that makes me rethink the movie. Oh, man. Okay. So this would go into my biggest compliment with this movie is I think unlike a lot of at least the Wes Anderson stuff I like, is I always feel like I watched the movie and then I'm all right, I'm good. I really like that. I enjoyed that. I got what I wanted. Really great ride the entire time through. But this is one of the only ones I could think of where I'm like, oh, there's a lot to chew on.
After.
Yeah.
It was like my only complaint with French Dispatch. Right, where
too cleanly resolved.
I felt like I got everything. Like I felt like there wasn't much for me to I've done with the plate. There wasn't much for me to chew on after.
Yeah.
Think about like a grander narrative other than or something even deeper than like the state of writing, right?
Right.
Other than I love the only exception being that line of the chef on the medical table after eating poison.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Is the only line I think of because I feel like that's the most real line in that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's about art. Like it's about or anything you enjoy, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No, that's such a okay. So Ian, what were you gonna say?
So I think I might be able to tie it into what you said, Nick, about it. But one of the things I was thinking about is the like method classes that we see Willem Dafoe leading at one point. We see like these 1940s the method classrooms of entering the state of mind of the character, finding parallelism. And I think that scene was for me like a key to the movie when I'm watching it, and maybe a good thing to think of if you do go back and look is the you can't wake up if you don't fall asleep mantra of so I tied that scene to the Margot Robbie dead wife scene, and to kind of a bigger through line of one that art, dream and art are often like associated. The idea that art is the dream that we create, the fantasy space. But I think also that to build out the idea of sci-fi, I think there is a degree to which the Jason Schwartzman character is I interpret it as Jason Schwartzman's character is somewhat a stand-in for the writer character. That's why the writer is so centrally kind of focused in on.
Yeah, it's the only character before the method acting scene, which only the second time does he appear. When in that classroom, which is you can't fall asleep if you don't, or you can't wake up if you don't fall asleep, which is Jason Schwartzman's character. It's the only one it connects to.
Exactly, and this idea that the art itself is the projection of the writer. Like all of this is. I think that I think exactly what Nick said, but then on top of that, it's also it's the writer letting himself out, the metaphoric bleeding on the page of I don't understand me. I need to write, and I think some writers relate to this somewhat, is I feel like I am a cosmic mystery. I need this fiction to understand what the fuck is going on,
It's that like elevated level of if you're writing, you should have something to say. You should have a thought that's like, I need to say this, only I can say this, right?
Especially for genre writing.
Experience. But that's like the next step of like everything I do is an enigma of life that cannot be explained by the mere physical that we see around here. But only the ethereal, that which lies beyond the pale.
What I mean, and I think that ties back into the reoccurring motif of the burning of the hand, that we get more context for the narrative aspect of it, but I think the metatextual is I keep hurting myself and I don't know why. I keep putting myself in shitty situations. I don't know what, like, that's what I was taking out of it, I think. And so
it's got to be like just to feel something. It's because it relates to drugs too, like, which is what you take drugs for. And by the way, that scene with the method act, you can't wake up.
You can't wake up if you don't fall asleep.
If you don't fall asleep. That just lends. I think that scene just lends more to my thing of that. It's a documentary being acted out. Because if we have to choose in reality, a bunch of people synced up with that while an alien walked through, and we're chanting that, and then they follow that alien. Then I guess we're watching a movie. That's the only fucking conclusion.
Okay.
Yeah, movies aren't real.
Movies aren't real. I know. I was getting to that point. So.
Oh, sorry.
See, that's my thing with like meta stuff too. Is like it's so easy to just get to movies aren't real. And
have you ever thought about how it's pretend and bullshit? Ever? Like one time,
dude. Me and Nick. I've had this. We'll talk about this off camera. But me and Nick were always talk about how our two favorite scenes from Cracked After Hours are like the last two scenes of the last scenes of the last two episodes, which is Michael Swaim's his whole thesis of 9/11 changed everything. And
your point
and
was
having that
9/11
scene of
changed everything.
Katie,
Yeah.
Katie going, Michael, are you saying 9/11 changed everything? He's like, yeah, I guess I am, but it did though in movies, and and just realizing how much like nothing that is.
I think those two episodes, and then that pretty much set up like what we were doing with the podcast, where I was like, where I was just like, yeah, at some point you just gotta like admit what you're saying. Like, what are you actually trying to say?
Yeah.
With all this.
Yeah. What are you trying to get at?
Yeah. No, actually, I told you guys about like my own classes where I'm at that point too, and I feel really bad because a lot of it is like still being figured out for people.
Yeah.
And it's just like if it's genre writing and your goal is I want to make something that gave me an emotional impact or that can give an audience emotional impact, then my thing I always ask is, okay, well, why is that? Like, why does blank scare you, or why does blank interest you? Like,
yeah,
I don't like. It may be too much, but I'm like, but if you're gonna write this, you gotta at least think about it or something.
Yeah, if you want to have that connection with someone.
Yeah, if it's like a dumb comedy, like yeah,
you got to get to that ugly part of writing where you're really thinking about yourself and why does something affect you so much?
Yeah.
I had it. Well, that'll take us a little off track, but going back to the Cracked After Hours thing. Wait, I just want to get what the last episode was, because that's still my favorite ending to any of the videos, and it's Dan O'Brien's like thing of just proving that these movies are all about making a movie.
Yeah.
And then just having I think it's Michael or Kate. It's either Michael or Katie again. She's telling Dan, so are you saying movies aren't real? Yeah, I guess I am, but I proved it. I proved it with evidence. and that thing gets me every time. But it's that of like, yeah, so what are you saying? Like, was this worth the conversation? Yeah. Which of course is used to great comedic effect there, but like, yeah, in art and writing and everything. But I think that's a good, unless there's any other particular scene you want to talk about. We can get into what's the meaning we got out of these.
Okay.
Do that? All right, then falling action. What did you all get out of it?
A funny film.
A funny film. Very funny.
Very funny.
Good times? Good times. And that's what we had.
Good times.
Yeah.
Apparently, go ahead.
I would say, speaking of Steve Carell's character, Bill Murray's supposed to play that part, and Steve Carell just stand in. Yeah, it was written for Bill Murray, but he never. Yeah, it was.
I like Steve Carell's performance in there, though.
Yeah, I think it worked. Yeah, I think it was like really cool.
He's just so good at just like, God, just being like slightly. Everything he does is slightly goofy, but it's all played straight.
Yeah.
Yes.
Type deal. Like that is who that person is.
Mm-hmm.
And it adds that comedic effect. No, good stuff. But I'll be real, Nick, that whole genre thing is like making me rethink a lot of stuff about the movies and like trying to get to the meta thing.
Yeah.
But I guess if we're talking about like the art of it, right? Like it's discussion on art, which is no matter what you take out of something, or if you're not showing something right, there's always something you're not seeing. That was there. That's going to explain something bigger about a person, about a piece of art, about everything. Again, much like life. We have the main character, the dad, where you have the missing wife and the missing scene with the burning hand. We do not see any Scarlett Johansson's like actual work. We just have to believe. That's who they are. You see the stuff missing there. Steve Carell's like there's literally land missing. I don't even know if this is like how much this holds water. Again, I would have to rewatch the movie, but I do like that message of everything is connected, and if you take it out, the spirit or like the spirit of it still lives. Like its effects are still felt, and you have to account for that. You have to account for what's being put in, much like oh my god, it is just that saying of like you can't take the writer out of the writing. Like even if the writer is writing fantasy and like something they don't know, you're still gonna get their personal affects in there, their worldview, the way they view like how interactions go, and how it's their own logic, right? You're reading their logic of how interactions would work.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you just can't erase that. That's what makes writing, and that's what makes storytelling interesting, right?
Yeah.
That's my own thoughts from this very short conversation. Again, I could rewatch the movie and it'll probably be something completely different. I'm gonna figure out all the layers. I'll tell you what. But Nick, what did you get out of the movie? I feel like Ian would have a lot to say, so I'm gonna go with Nick.
Fair enough.
Next.
Yeah, fair enough. I definitely got out a really interesting because at first I think the only thing I quote unquote was expecting was pretty much a sort of weird celebration of that era of science fiction.
Yeah.
And what a lot of that represented. And in a way it is, but that is just the screenplay to like an author, trying to hide parts of themselves intentionally. Even though there's always going to be stuff unintentionally that are going to be there, like you said. It actually reminded me of a quote from the cartoonist Adrian Tomine, who did Killing and Dying, where he said that how he got over his nerves with writing is that he accepted that there's always going to be conscious and unconscious projections he'll put into anything. And he said he just had to accept that, whatever he thinks he has control of, there's going to be one or two things that people are just going to figure out about himself. There's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah. There's only what the text is, more or less. Maybe not even 100% when you finish writing, but you can't control how people view things, even though it's weird. Because in that way, writing is a study in futility, like because you're trying to control how they see a situation, by some format. But at the end of the day, you can only do so much. And people are going to read what they're going to read. I'm not going to get into weird. Well, that can lead into a whole bigger argument about the state of writing. But I get what you're saying.
Yeah, and I think for Asteroid City, it was like a really cool, except for like a really cool sort of take on that aspect of writing. About the writer himself, like about. And then like how documentaries themselves, they also choose and they pick and choose about the subject focus on. So, I mean, I guess it's supposed to be that like from the film to the screenplay to the production of it, and then the writer, and then the documentary. It's all like, it's all about some form of like hiding. I don't know. I thought it was really cool. Like again, like you said, there's so much like you can just kind of talk about. But I definitely got like probably like one of my favorite Wes Anderson films. Generally speaking,
it's up there for me.
Just in terms of like I actually have a lot to think about.
I still haven't felt like I've had that like aha moment. Like this is what I think the film is. Type deal. I still feel like I'm trying to crack that nut.
Yeah, you didn't have your Danny DeVito and Always Sunny moment.
I get it. Yeah. No, that's a really good take on that. That's a really fascinating take. I was gonna say something after, but I'm not remembering. So let's just go with Ian. What'd you have to say? What'd you get out of it?
I'd say what I got out of it is it overlaps so much with what Nick said. I think it's really good, well put. Just to say that, it's an interesting look at science fiction. I think to tie it to, now this is just what I know as a fan of Wes Anderson. I mean, the thing that's probably most personal is him building a story around that idea of, oh gosh, as a writer, you do end up kind of showing a lot to people.
Yeah.
That you maybe aren't.
You're showing some really deep thoughts.
Yeah, and the kind of I think you do it on some level have to be kind of comfortable being a metaphorical open book up to a certain point, because there's certain times where I've read
the
authors,
writers on the stage too.
very much so, very much
like
so
in the movie.
Not unlike literally on that, in that,
like that scene
picture
that Ian forgot about, which is the very intro of the movie.
Yeah.
Is that the typewriter scene where it's,
Yes!
we're not going to show you him writing it, but okay.
Yeah. Which, by the way, I felt that so goddamn hard as I literally I feel like I've told this story before. Where when I was doing Underling Uprising, they used to do streams. They might be doing it again, but they used to do streams about just showing how they're making the game, right? And it's one of our guys developing or doing game dev and like programming and shit, and the other Lenny drawing and animating. And then they're like, you should do it too. And I'm like, you don't want that. You don't want that on camera. Me, because I'll tell you what writing is most of the time for me. Like, if you had to look at it, it's me staring at a screen, typing a little bit, and then kind of just going back and like thinking, and then looking at the screen, and then mashing delete, writing something, and then like, and that's not fun.
Yeah. I'm like that with music too. Like sometimes people want to see how I mix a lot of stuff or things like that.
Yeah.
So what they want to see is like the last 10%.
Yeah, they want to see the last. They want to see me editing is what they want.
Yeah.
Like,
because I mean, because they don't want to hear. They just don't want to put up with someone going note for note or chord for chord, because that is like grading. That's genuinely like brain.
Yeah, it's almost like it's a process when you're putting this shit down.
Yeah.
It's work. You're gonna watch a guy work? Like, you gonna watch?
Yeah, because the brain's always gonna try to finish the music. So then, like, if I keep going chord for chord, I'm just like irritating them. Like, I'm like, you don't want that.
Me and Ian talk about that whole documentary on The Simpsons. From like the heyday of The Simpsons, where they're filming the writer's room.
Yeah.
And it's just a bunch of guys sitting on couches not saying anything. And then one of them goes, well, Marge can say, and then nothing for another like half hour. And the documentary guy's going up to them and going, okay, I know we told you just act naturally, but like, you got to get up or something. This is so.
Could you walk around maybe? Or
maybe like in thought, like, or it's so fucking real. It's that line. That's not even like whatever greater meaning, whatever. If there is one to that line, I just like that it's in there. Like, that's so fucking real. That is like the realest thing for art making or writing, especially. But I'm sorry, Ian, we interrupted you with that line.
I think that the way in which it's personal is definitely like that reflection. I would say maybe one of the things I took away from it is that the movie, the movie's sci-fi element is kind of linking these science people and these art people through. We need an answer. I don't know if we're ever going to get a satisfying one.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
Oh, I said like
No, we're agreeing with you.
Oh, okay. I feel like the movie is kind of about how do we settle ourselves with not knowing, including and then like the two big ideas being not knowing in the sci-fi sense the cosmic mysteries. There's always going to be something we don't understand. And then from the documentary side, knowing ourselves. Sometimes even with all these processes of the writing, like it's discovery. It's the writing of the discovery aspect of the writing of shit, do I know what I'm even talking about? Or do I need to like unpack it? Oh shit. And because sometimes I've reread stuff that I've written and I'm like, oh shit, okay, and I suddenly get like a context for why I framed something in this certain way. You know what I mean?
It's very much like that. I just, you know what? I will tell the story. I just had a moment recently, right? I'm not gonna say what the project is because you're not gonna hear about that project for another like year or two at best. I was writing a character, and the character was very much inspired. Like the way I'm writing it is very much inspired by events that happened around a family member of mine. That let's just say it didn't go great. It's not a happy time,
right?
In that, and I was writing this thing for like an hour, which isn't that long, like all things considered. But I didn't get a lot done for that hour. I got a lot less done that hour. And I was explaining to my lead that, hey, this is what I wrote so far in this hour, because this is like the hour before meeting. I know it doesn't seem like a lot, even though they thought it was like a really good start. Which I was really happy about that. I'm so glad they said that to me because I had to really have. I felt really bad, but I'm like there was parts that I was debating about leaving in and taking out because they were exactly what happened, and I don't, and it felt really real to do that. And I was getting weirdly emotional, like while writing this bit. So I just. So there's bits in there that I kept in. There's bits I didn't. There's bits I don't talk about. Because the one I don't even know if they'll be necessary to the story, but they were part of the character pitch. But like a lot of like some of the parts of writing is that you're exploring some pretty painful shit like that's happened to you, and and you feel those emotions, like, or at least I did, like where you're feeling a lot of emotions of how you felt about the whole situation. And I don't know, usually I think that usually does mean you're going on something good, but I mean if you keep doing that to yourself, man, like what is the consequence? Right? Like but it is like you are gonna hit these parts of you when you're making art, especially if you're not just doing like happy-go-lucky stuff, or that like are gonna be painful, like there are intense, right? That you're putting on display as we've shown. Meta.
So that's what you got out of the film.
What's up?
That's what
you got out of the film.
That's what I got. That's some of what I got. Again, I really don't feel like I feel like I have to do work. Like I have to do more work on this movie.
Totally.
And I have the Blu-ray copy of this thing, so like I'm just gonna pop it in again. Okay, so let's get into after that. Wow, that's fun to come off of. Let's go into the denouement, which is what do we recommend for people who maybe enjoyed this, or what you thought, like media you thought of when you thought of this movie, right? To recommend to people. Let's go with Nick. I feel like Nick, you go. You got this.
You know what? Like,
what do you think?
My gut reaction is, you could check. I mean, if you want, you could check out a lot of what Asteroid releases.
I'll tell you what. If you like a Wes Anderson movie, you'll probably like other Wes Anderson movies.
And if I think also like that, whatever he's trying to do with this film, you could check out, Encounters of a Third Kind. You could check out. You could check out A Day the Earth Stood Still, the original 1950s film,
and also the Keanu Reeves one. I saw that in theaters.
Even as a kid, I hated it. That was so boring.
Yeah, that's a really boring film, actually. The only cool
Literally,
thing is when the alien shows up.
when it shows, and that's it.
That's
Everything
it.
else is.
It's like such the opposite of the original that movie. It's so wild.
Go check out that. Go check out Keanu Reeves.
50 years later.
Uh,
So Encounters of a Third Kind, The Day the Earth Stood Still.
You know,
Mhm.
honestly, probably Wes Anderson's last two films. I feel like it's the
Yeah.
same similar direction. It's
Yeah.
all genre writing.
Yeah, French
it's all
Dispatch I would recommend too.
writers. Like honestly, those probably be it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ian, what would you recommend to people to check out?
I've got 3 little ones. I would recommend, if you liked this, try some classic Twilight Zone.
Oh, absolutely.
That's,
I feel like that should just be part of your repertoire always.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
If you
Fucking love
if you're
Twilight Zone.
someone if you're someone who hasn't watched any of Twilight Zone, or at least none of the black and white 60s,
Yeah.
please watch Terror at 2,000 Feet. Please watch The Masquerade of Death. Watch so many good ones. So many good ones, guys.
There's so much out there. Ahead of its
Ghost
time. That show too.
Yeah. Ghost Hitler's my favorite.
Ghost Hitler. I'd recommend that. There really is no show like it anymore, and people will say Black Mirror, but I still don't think Black Mirror is quite at Twilight Zone level. It's a very different view of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's because it's not entirely dystopian nonstop. Like
it's very cynical, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's what it's going for.
Yeah.
And there are episodes I really enjoy from Black Mirror, but Twilight Zone, like, it's something else, man. It really is like lightning in a bottle. There's nothing else like it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And from the perspective, at least for me, from the perspective of, we were talking about like writers bringing their own kind of, I think Charlie Booker is a little bit of a technophobe, truthfully. Like, some of his writing compared to the Twilight Zone,
he sure is. Like, there's
yeah.
and that's the cynical part of it. Like, there's oh my god, yeah, because then a lot of it boils down to technology bad.
Yes, whereas I think a Rod Sterling
technology brings the worst out of us.
Like Shinkai films are like that. Sorry.
Yeah.
I think that the Twilight Zone is more of the humanistic. Here is where the human spirit or the human character is flawed, whereas I think Charlie's more like, fucking Netflix is gonna make you cheat on your wife. Or
yeah.
Okay. Anything else you would recommend, or?
I would also recommend. You already mentioned the other Wes Anderson films. If you want something kind of the genre, like if you want to get into that kind of stuff, try El Santo, the wrestler, did a few sci-fi movies that are fun as hell.
El Santo's sick, man.
There's also a movie. There's also a 1961 sci-fi flick I always try and get people to watch, called La Nave de los Monstruos. It has Miss Mexico 1960 and Miss Mexico 1959, and there's a singing cowboy in it, and it's a real fun, like a goofy sci-fi movie. Very fun. Very, very fun.
Got it. All right. What would I... You know what? I'm going to go, because we all went kind of like old school. I'm going to go a little bit more contemporary. I'm going to recommend Nope. If you if you like this, you're going to love Nope. Not in terms of like, it's not at all the movie done in the Wes Anderson style, but when we're talking about like meta narratives compared to like sci-fi being used and like being surprised about like the different layers to this, Nope has that in spades. So go check out Nope. Nope's fantastic. If you're into UFOs, I would recommend. What's it called? Is it called The Lighthouse? It's the movie about the two saucers flying around a lighthouse. Made in the 70s. Fuck it. Well, but go look that up. That'll be something. Yeah, you guys already hit Twilight Zone, French Dispatch, other Wes Anderson movies that I would recommend. Yeah, go check those out. I feel that's good. I feel like that's a good SWAT. Like, that's a lot. That's a lot to look at.
It's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can plan these out better in the future.
Fingers crossed, man.
Not just for us, but for everyone. I made that calendar, so hopefully we'll figure stuff out. But yeah. All right. Thank you for listening to this. We'll all catch you later.
Yay.
Live long and prosper.
All right, yeah.
Yay.